Welcome to Don't Panic Geocacher. My name is Arjen and I go by WaterFan5 on the geocaching.com website, and I'm here to talk to you today more about mystery caches. The topic of this video is I'm going to talk about lesser known logic puzzles. These puzzles exist on the internet and in puzzle books and can also be used in mystery caches. Therefore, it's important to familiarize yourself so that you recognize them when they appear on a mystery cache, as they may not always say that that's the type of logic puzzle that they are. And so, being able to see the different variants will help you solve these type of puzzles, as they certainly appear out there and quite common. They don't tell you exactly the rules, so it's important to familiarize yourself with these rules. Now, if you look at mystery caches and logic puzzles, these are some of the common variants that you might be familiar with. So Sudokus are very common used in mystery caches. Kokuru, more of a math variant where you have to fill in numbers that add to certain sums or multiplications, are also quite common. We've seen nonograms where the rows and columns give you how many are filled in, and those are certainly utilized as well. And even Minesweeper is considered a logic puzzle that can be utilized for geocaching puzzles. However, these more common types you may already be familiar with. There's lots of sources on the internet to tell you how to solve these, and I wanted to focus today on some of the lesser known ones and show you a website that can help you train yourself on this and familiarize yourself with the rules. It is also a great resource that maybe you didn't exactly remember what the rules are, but you see it on a mystery cache. You have kind of like your one-stop place that you can go to and figure out how they're solved. So, because there is a lot more variance, and so you see here, all of these are a different type of logic puzzle with their own unique rules. Often the rules are very simple, only 2 or 3 rules, and that will then allow you to solve a specific unique puzzles. Some of them use numbers, some of them use just black and white or the yes no type approach to solve the puzzle. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you about 10 different variants and show you how I solve them and give you a quick example on easy mode and sometimes tell you how they can be utilized for a geocaching puzzle. So here is a common scenario. This one is called bridges, and there's very specific rules. And this is also the website that I'm going to use. So puzzle bridges. You might notice that the website's name changes based on the type of puzzle. And I'm going to show you how to solve this specific type puzzle and um, the rules for this logic puzzle. So this is one of my favorites, Hashi, or in English bridges, where you have to place bridges. We have different set of islands, um, and each island identifies how many bridges they need. The bridges are always straight, so either horizontal or vertical, and they can't go diagonal. And we can have single or double bridges between the islands. So how I typically start is I look at some of the high numbers at the side or some of the very low numbers, because those are the easiest then to eliminate. So here, for example, we see a 6. Well, there's only 3 directions that it can go, and with the maximum number, 2 times 3, um, that is the maximum it can do. So this needs the maximum. So that's a good place to start. So we're placing these. We now have the 6 because it's the only option that it has there. So we're done with this one. So it immediately then gives us slightly more because this 3, we now know that this is the 1 remaining. It's the only other direction it has. So this 3 is done, but also this 1 is done. This means that this one now only has one option left, that is going down. It has no left option or up option. So this one is done. So we're immediately finished with this. And let's go a little bit further. If we look, for example, at this 4, it only can go left. So that needs to be the double to meet the 4 criteria. So we're done with this one. And now this one is done as well. And that opens up some more because this one has now only one direction to go. It can't cross this part. So that means that the one needs to be here, finalizing the one area. And similar here, this two, it can't go up. So the two need to be right here, closing out this one. So yeah, these ones are done. But now we see, for example, with the two, this can go left, this can go down. This three, it can go in two directions, but we don't know which is the one and which is the two. But we know that three couldn't be satisfied in a single direction. So each one needs at least one. So because there's no way to go down or up. Since each one needs to go up or down, and we already had one here, means that the two is done. So that now means that this four only needs to have the last two here. And it also means that this three, which only has one connection to the two, needs this other connection here to be done. So now those two have finished. So here we have now five. We need one more. So that needs to be down here. And so now the six is finished. And here we need one. And that needs to be here. And now we're all done with this bridges puzzle. So yeah, this is how you solve a very easy one. Of course, you can do harder ones, but hopefully it gives you a little bit of an idea of how to solve these. So this one is Akari for light or light up. Rules here is that you have to find where the light is. So light bulbs can't shine on each other. They only shine in horizontal vertical direction. And the number indicates how many lights are directly attached to that specific cell. So, and that can only be horizontal. So there's a maximum of 4 locations. So a 4 means all 4 locations. That's tested. So when solving this one again, it's good to start with either the very high or hard to reach spots. So here we have 3, only 3 locations. So we all 3 have now lights, and we see the game will light up what is now being done. All these yellow spots cannot have a light because that would directly shine other light, so that is not allowed by the rules. So they are automatically solved, but at the end we need to make sure everything up. Out of 2, we only see that there is now 2 locations left because this one can't be because it was trying to that one. So we can place lights right there. So we know that means that this 2 only has 2 left. So we can place there, this 2 right there. So we see that we have done most of it. The last one, for this to be lit up, we just place light here and solve the puzzle. So again, this is on easy, hard. You set it, but you see that none of the lights shine on each other and the entire board is lit up. So that means requirements. Again, you can reread the rules here on the left. And this one is actually quite a few geocaching puzzles where, for example, the locations of the lights find the coordinates, because technically 5 is a 5, 6, stuff like that. So there can be different numbers that be utilized to design a puzzle this way. Or sometimes it's just inserted that you have to enter locations of puzzles by certain rows. You have to enter where they are. So a variety of ways can be combined. So this one is another quite popular one. Um, Several geocaching puzzles utilize this mechanism, and especially if they don't tell you what it is, it's just like a bunch of dots and circles. So that's why it's good to be familiar with these type of things, so you know that in this case doing what is called like a Slytherin or fences or loop loop. There's multiple names. Variety of websites that have this puzzle, and the rules are simple. You have to make a loop of fences, and the numbers indicate how many of the borders. So an area has maximum 4 borders, like this. This, of course, wouldn't be correct since this one says it only has 2. Note that If it doesn't say a number, it doesn't mean that it has 0. It just means they haven't given you information. So let's start with a new one and then try to solve it. So we know it's 4, so we can again, by in this case right-clicking, and mark all the ones that um, are not utilized here. So that will limit that this is there. Now, since this one, let's see right here, if we would, this would be a fence. It couldn't be a loop because it has no way out, right? So we know that this can't be a fence. Since this one is 2, we know that it needs to be here. Similar with this area, this can't be a fence because it's dead end, and we loop, place X right there, and that means that the other two fence. So and so on. So this one, since we have to make a loop, and since the fence goes like this would not be a solid loop. So neither of these can be fences. So that means that these two have to be fence. So most likely it will come in like this or like that. We'll find that out later. Similar tricks we can play here. This can't be a fence because again it would be a dead end. This would be a dead end if the fence was right here. So we block this out. This means that these three, if we put a fence here, that would create like a T, right? So that would go in two directions. It has to become a loop at the end. So that wouldn't work. So this would be an X. So that means these be done. And similar scenario, since we already go this way, no, we can't go that way. So that means that these have to be a fence to satisfy the tree requirement. This has now only one way to go. So if it only has one way to go, can't go down. One of the next. So we know we have this way. But note, we're not necessarily sure if it will go down here, although this one can't be done. This one, these right are sure down are right here. So since this one can't be connected here, this one can't be connected here, this one to go to the right. It's the only option for this way to go. And it's pretty certain that the only way that these two can connect is like this. So since we are now here, can't put it on here, right? Because that would be it. This would be it. These two, and we see that we are looped nicely fast. Now we need a 3 scenario here. So of course the 3 is, but if this is the end, then we could not go here, could not go there. So because otherwise can't go in any direction. So pushing that on, if that now is a fence, basically we'll go like this. So we can now sort of see where it's going. This we now have a loop, and we have finished the entire loop and have all the criteria matched. So again, this is an easy one, goes all the way up, and I've seen geocaching puzzles where you have to solve this and ask specific questions about a specific row or a specific column or something else that you have to enter to checker or that you have to calculate coordinates. I've seen one geocaching puzzle where they use basically a binary, so 1 0 0 1 0 1 0 1 for basically how the fences were located, and that was actually so again a variety of way, and again useful to recognize seeds. So this one is tents. In tents, you have to find each tent has to be with tree, and each tree needs to have a tent. It's basically the rules. So tents can't touch each other, not even diagonally, and the numbers indicate how many tents there are in each row or each column. So let's do this. Again, you can start out by doing all the zeros. So marking these blank makes it easy. So now those are already there. Now tents can't be next to each other, so not both of these can't be tents. So um, and actually this one only has one spot left for the tent, so we know this is a tent. That means that this one can't be a tent. It means that this one only has one left, so that has to be a tent. So, and then the one next to it cannot be, because you see if I do that, it will tell me that it can't be. So I'm placing that one as blank. Note that this one only had one, so that means that this one now has to be blank as well. That gives this tree only one option, so this needs to be a tent. Um, so we are done with those. This one doesn't have a tent yet, so we're done with those three, but this one doesn't have a tent, only one location left. This has to be a tent, which means that's the ones around it, and even diagonally, as it said, can't touch, so we can exclude all those options right there. This one only has one, so that means that this one needs to be blank, giving this one again only one option, so that means that this needs to be a tent, which means that this one has two, or next to it can't be, so this one needs to be blank. We've only two locations left, both tents, and we have solved this puzzle. So again, a little logic slightly different than the other ones, but once you understand the rules, you see in a few rules we can explain what you need to do. It's very simple, but of course, if you do harder ones, then they become harder to solve, and you have to use more logic rules. Okay, next one is skyscrapers or towers. Also seen this one used in geocaching puzzles where you have to solve this, and because it uses numbers, they can give you locations and allow you to calculate the coordinates. Again, I'm playing this on easy mode, but you see only making it slightly bigger, 6 will already make it hard. There's a couple of tools here, and I will utilize those. This is basically to erase a cell. This is to fill in a cell. Now, how you attack this is the ones are the easy part, and I typically go from high to the low numbers. So all the ones I know have to be a 4, because the rules are um, how many buildings do you see from a specific site. So if all the numbers need to be unique, like Sudoku, so that means that you fill in the numbers 1 to 4 in each row and each column. That is the goal. So a number can't repeat twice on the same row or column. And this tells you, if I stood here, how many buildings would I see? Where a building of 4 stories high would block lower buildings. So since I only see one, it means the highest building is right in front of me. Hence, this is a 4. So everywhere where it says a 1, I know it needs a 4 because I only see one specific building. So once we have marked the 4s, we now know that the last 4 needs to be in the last location because we know rows and columns. So this is the only spot left for this row and this column where it wouldn't interfere with the other ones. So we've placed all the 4s, and now this is we can look at the 3s. Notice that if any of the outside had a 4, we knew that the sequence would be 1, 2, 3, 4 because it's the maximum amount of buildings. I rarely see that used in a puzzle since that would make it very easy. So we've now done the all the 4s. So let's say where the 3s would be. Now let's take, for example, here. Could the 3 be here? And so if we toggle this, then we can, it now changes it that I can set the candidates in this scenario. So I'm trying to see, well, I know it's not going to be a 4. So it's 1, 2, 3, but can it be a 3? Well, if it was a 3, I would satisfy this criteria of 3 and 4. However, only remaining left would be 1 and 2, and that means that I would see at least 3. The 1 or the 2, the 3 and the 4. So this can't be a 3. So the 3 has to be one of these. Similar with this scenario, let's take a look. Can this be a 3? Well, if this is a 3, then I wouldn't see this one, and I would see 4. So this scenario can't be a 3 either, so it has to be a 1 or a 2. That means that the 3 has to be here for this scenario. So if we go back to toggle this one, I can place a 3 right here. So we now know that the 1 and the 2 need to be right there for this one. Similar scenario for this one, I'll toggle it back on. Can this be a 3? If it was a 3, I would see building number 3. These two would be hidden from the right side, so I would only see 2. So this can't be a 3, so it has to be a 1 or 2. Next one, can this be a 3? And the answer here again is no, it cannot be, because if this was a 3, we would only see the 3 and the 4, because the 2 or the 1, whatever was behind it, was hidden. So this can only be a 1 or a 2, meaning that this one has to be a 3. So toggle it back, and now we have 2 3s. So we know that the last 2 3s need to be here in the middle. Well, there's actually 2 locations where they can be, because we know this is a 4. So the only way that this would work is if the 3s are right here in this scenario, because we only have 4 locations left, and in this one they would share, and so that wouldn't work, because we can't have 2 3s on the same row or the same column. So this is the only combinations for the 3 and the where all the 3s are in this scenario. So now we have to look at the 1s and the 2s. Now again, a good place to start is of course I'm going basically down the line of doing the 2s. Also, let's take a look at this one. This says it sees 3. Well, we know it sees 1 with 4. So we need to have it be able to see 2 more. And the only way to achieve that is by doing 1, 2. Because if it was 2 was the first one, then it would see 2 and 4, and it would only see 2. So we know this is a 1, this is a 2. Now we are pretty much done, because now it's just filling in the remaining numbers. The only number used here is a 2. The only number used here is a 1. Means 2. 1 is the only number left. 2 and 1. And we have completed the puzzle. So slightly more things, slightly more tools that you have to use. But again, it's just a logic puzzle. And again, since it uses numbers, pretty easy to see how this could convert to a geocaching puzzle. This puzzle is called More or Less, or Shiki. And similar like Sudoku, you have to fill in unique numbers in each row and column up to the length. So in this case, numbers 1 to 4, since it's a grid size 4. The only hint that we have is these greater and smaller symbols. So in this case, the number below is greater than the number above it. That is what this comparison symbol means. Similar the other way around, it can also be left to. So that is the rules. So we have the comparison, and each need to be unique, and we use the numbers 1 to 4. I'm taking a new puzzle. So we see here very little clues are only needed, but there is immediately something we can say here, because the 2 is small, number smaller than a 2 is a 1. So we know with these tools we can switch between candidates or absolute options. So we know that this has to be a 1. So that means that for now we go back to the candidate. This is a 3 or a 4. This is a 3 or a 4, because that's the only number we're missing. Since this number needs to be bigger than this number, and this number is a 3 or a 4, only the 4 is possible here. And then this needs to be a 3, and then this one now is the remaining number. So this is where the 4 is located. Okay. So that means that if we go back to candidates, this is 1, 2, this is the 1, 2, this row. That's the only options. Let's take a look at here. This has to be bigger, so it can't be a 1, so it's 1, 3, 4. And this one can only be 1, 2, 3. Can't be a 4, because that way it wouldn't be smaller than the lowest number possible there. Okay. So now that we have those ones done, so let's see what else we have left. This actually can't be a 4, because we already have a 4 in this row. So we can remove 4, since it has to be bigger. We know that this one can't be a 3, so we can also remove the 3 from that option. So now we see that we're leading into like a specific issue here, because where would the 4 have to go? Can't go here, can't go here, can't go here, can't go here. So the 4 needs to go here, the only option left for the 4. And that means that the last 4, because every row and column needs a 4, needs to be right here. So now every row and every column has a 4. So with the 4 in place and the 2, we know that this one can't be a 2, right? Because we already have a 2. So this one now is a 1 for sure. Means that this one is a 3 for sure. Since we have eliminated the 1, this one is a 1, this one is 3. So we have only the 1 left here. So now this one can't be a 1, can't be a 3 and a 4. So this one has to be a 2. That means that the last one is now a 3, and now we filled in the remainder and have completed the puzzle. So yeah, slightly trickier than some of the other puzzles, especially if the board gets larger and depending on how much information you see, there's a logical the outcome of the puzzle. That's the more or less puzzle. Easy to see how this can be utilized in geocaching puzzles, as this involves numbers, so it can easily tell you like use this number plus this number or this number times that number, and now you have to calculate the coordinates based on these specific cells, right? You could name them all A, B, C, 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's A1 times this or A1 plus this plus this, and that will give you the coordinates. This one is Kakurasu. Also seen this used in several geocaching puzzles because again it involves numbers. So that makes it popular to use with geocaching puzzles. Again, I'm using a small one. They go all the way 99, which are much harder to do. And the idea is that you sum the rows, so the numbers at the top need to go to the number 5, and you need to mark them with black squares. But the squares then automatically count towards the column as well. So if you have something that's just marked black right here, it counts to the row as a 3, and it counts to the column as a 1. This can get confusing pretty quick, so it's pretty easy to make a mistake. Let's see if I can avoid a mistake. There's a couple of things to realize. 1, 2, 3, 4 combined is 10. So some numbers can only be made in a unique way. And for example, we see that here with the number 9. The only way to make the number 9 is 2, 3, 4. So now that gives us a great start because we can mark these 3 and we know that we have satisfied this condition because that is a 9. We now know that for this area we need a 6. We have 2 points, right? But there's 2 ways to make 6, 1 and 3. And 1, 2, 3 would be 6, and 2 and 4 would be 6. So we can't do anything here. Similar with the 7, we have a 2. Well, there's a variety of ways, but in this case, we only need 5, and the only way to make 5 is by a 4 and a 1. This is the 5. So this will actually help us. So 1, 2, and 4, that is the only way to make 7. So we know we've satisfied that criteria as well. Since we need to make a 5, the only way to make a 5 is with 2 and a 3, because the 4 is already eliminated. So we select the 2 and the 3. We finalize this one. We need a 5 right here. Only way to do that is a 1 and a 4. Satisfied that one. We've actually satisfied this one as well, because a 1 and a 4 is 5. So we are done right here. So we only need to find out what we need to do here. We have a 2 and a 3. So we need a 1. And we see that we have completed the puzzle. So small ones are pretty easy. The bigger they get, the higher they get. But you see here also that for the hard ones, the 99, it can be pretty hard to solve. This one is called the Takuzu or binary. And again, we have to do with only 2 colors. And let me make it slightly bigger, see it better. Rules here is that we have to place the white and the black cells. Each row and column has the same amount. So in this case, it's a 6. So it's 3 and it will always be 3 black, 3 white. No more than 2 can be adjacent. Note that it's only horizontal and vertical. Diagonal is fine. And each row and column is unique. You won't use that too often, but with the harder ones, that actually becomes important. This one's go pretty big, goes all the way to 2020, and um, yeah, they become more work to solve. Uh, Again, I've seen this used in geocaching puzzles simply where they ask like a row or a column and fill in with zeros and ones. In, for example, a certitude checker. How to do this. Okay, so let's start a new one and let's see how to solve this. So we know that there's only 2 adjacent next to each other. So this can't be a black. You see that it immediately flags me. Need to make it black. This say white. Similar like this one. So this needs to be a white on this particular scenario. This can't be a black because if I make it black, you see it immediately turns red. This has to be a white scenario because otherwise I have 3 in a row. It's similar with here. This has to be a white. This has to be a white. So we have those. We have now a 3 in a row scenario here. So this can't be a white. So it has to be a black one. Note that diagonal doesn't matter. So we can't say anything about this. But we can say something about this one because it has to be a white. So making this one a white because otherwise we get in a row right here. Okay, so we have 3 in a row right there. Now let's take a look at this row. We know that they have to be 3 and 3. This in this column. So we already have 3 whites, so we know that the last 2 have to be black. So we're gonna put in blacks for those. And so we see that right here. And that means that since we now have 2 here, that the ones on the outside need to be white again, because otherwise it doesn't work. Same here. We have 3 black ones. So we can't do another black one, so this one has to be white. And here we have 3 in a row, so the one in the middle has to be black. So here we have 3 black ones in this column, so we know that the last 2 have to be white. And then here we have 2 in a row, so this one has to be black. So we can basically navigate with only these very simple rules, right? No 2 adjacent and the same number in a row and a column. So here we have 3 black ones. So we know that the last 2 are going to be white. And now we see scenarios where we have the risk of 3 in a row. Can't have that. We also have already 3 white ones here. So the last 3 have to be black. 3 black ones here. The last 2 have to be white. And so we fill this in. So what are we missing here so far? We have 2 more. So this one can't be white because that would give, oh, sorry, can't be black because it would give us 3 black ones. So we're making this one white, filling the white criteria that we need for the last one. Be black, 3 blacks in a row, white, and then the last one has to be black. And we have solved the puzzle. So especially in Canada, I've seen quite a few of these. But yeah, another puzzle that can be utilized for geo puzzles. Tori, rules against on the side. All the You have to shade some of the cells. No number should appear unshaded more than once. So everywhere times that you see duplicates, one of the duplicates needs to go. However, you can't shade 2 right next to each other, either horizontally or vertically. And all non-shaded cells should be in a single group, meaning that we can't block things from each other. So this will become quite interesting since we can't block things that will often come into play. So for example, here we see that we have a group of 4 that we need to do. So if I would shade these 2, you would see that this 4 would be blocked. So I count that one. So there's only one combination here to get rid of the 4s that are duplicates. So that is by doing this scenario, because I can't shade 1, 2 next to each other. And I already mentioned that the other 2 wasn't possible. So now these are fair. We also need to get rid of one of the 5s here. We need to get rid of one of the 1s. But here we have a similar scenario where we see this a triangle of 2s. Again, if I would do here, we have 2 scenarios where it's going to work. It is either these 2s, right? So that would now eliminate it, or it is eliminated these 2. That we all have. So we only have 2 combinations there that would work in this particular scenario. So similar with the ones, we have here the 2 ones, and one of them need to be shaded. So in other words, if we shade this one, can't shade this one. So we would have to shade this scenario. Similar, if we shade this one, now we have to can't shade that one anymore. But that's the problem, because we can't shade this one either. So you see here that we have an issue that we need to shade one of these 2, right? Neither of them are possible. So it has to be shaded this one, which automatically means that this one has to be shaded for the 2s. So on this row, we're now good. We don't have any duplicates anymore. Here, we still have a duplicate 5 to work with, which means that one of these 5 needs to be shaded. Well, if I shade this one will become an island. That's not allowed. So I have to shade this scenario. So now we have the 3s. We need to get rid of the 3s. Similar scenario, these are the 3s. This one would be right next to each other. So the only way to shade this is by shading this scenario. And we have blocked. So we're getting towards the end because all the rows and columns start to look pretty good. But we still have a duplicate 3 right here that we have to get rid of. So if we do this right here, that would of course be fine, because we have a 3, but however, we have a 1 to deal with as well. So if we place the 1 right there, that wouldn't necessarily work. We also have a 3 that we have to get rid of right here, because we have 3 rows right there. Well, we can't shade both, so the more logical approach is to take this 3 right there. And so now we have satisfied this row and have satisfied this row scenario. So we only need to shade 1, and so we do that right there, and we have a solution. So that's how you solve the Hitori puzzles. Let's take a look at the Star Battle or Queens, popular type puzzle. See it used for geocaching puzzles as well, similar like the other ones, that maybe with a certitude checker. So what you need to do is that the rules are 2 stars cannot be adjacent to each other. And in 1 star puzzles, you need to have 1 star on each row or column. Diagonal, it is allowed. And in 2 stars, there can be 2 on each row and column, and so on. So this is a 5-5. This goes all the way up to 14-14 on this side. So it can be made much harder than what we do right now. So yeah, let's start a new one, and let's see how we would solve this one. I typically start with the smaller ones because they can exclude certain areas. So if there is a queen or a star right here, means that this row is covered. So these cannot be stars. Similar, if there's a star here or a star here, it means that these would always be adjacent, either directly or diagonal. So we know that these and these cannot be stars because that would conflict with placing a star right here. Now, we have a similar scenario here at the top, because if this or this now needs to be a star, it means that these 2 would always be adjacent. So we cannot have that scenario. And we also know that these 2 need to be a star, so that means that this row is automatically taken care of. So this can't be a star either. So that means that we only have 1 option left. This is where the star needs to be. Now, all the adjacent ones can be eliminated. So like this. So we have eliminated all adjacent. We only have 1 left here. So this needs to be the star for this scenario. Means that everything else in the same row and column can be eliminated. So doing that right here for this star and for this star as well. This one now only has 1 option left. So this needs to be the star, eliminating again all the ones on the same row and column, and also all the neighbors, leaving only 1 star for this, And then the last option is this star for this one, and we have completed the puzzle. This is the stars puzzle. Um, Again, simple logic rules to help you solve the specific puzzle. Let's look at the battleships puzzle. We have to find the locations of the battleships. Battleships cannot touch, and each row and column says how many ship pieces there are on there. Ships come in three sizes. There's one of size 3, 2 of size 2, and 3 of size 1. Let's take a new puzzle, and we can see here that there's already something is given in this scenario that um, this is the end of a ship, so that will help us. But we don't know if that's a ship 1, 2, or 3. It doesn't tell you that part. How I typically start is just marking water with all the zeros, because that often will eliminate a lot of positions. So we see right here that all these are not there. Now this only can be a 2. We already know ship piece that is right there. So we know that this needs to be the other ship piece, means that the rest can be water, and we've satisfied this rule. Note that doesn't mean anything else, but we do know that the ships can't touch. So we know that this has to be water, this has to be water. Makes it easy. This one needs to be 4. The only way to do that is by doing this. So that's the only way to make 4 out of this. That satisfies this one. It only has 1, so we can immediately mark everything as water, and we are done with that scenario. We actually have no more 2 ships left, so we only have 1 and 3, and we can. This one now is finished, right? This is a ship, so next to it is not a ship. So that means that this needs to be 3 once. So we're doing that right here. This means that the 3 needs to be right here. 3 can be in 2 locations. It can be right here, or it can be right there, right? So that's the 2 pieces that we have that we can deal with. Now note this one is satisfied as well, so we can rule that one out. This one needs a 1, so it's either going to be this one or this one, but since the 3 only can now spot in one location, no, this one has to be the 3. This one has to be empty. This one is now satisfied, so this is the last one left, and we are done with battleships. We know the locations, and again, the positions of the ships can be utilized to calculate coordinates if you want. At Dominosa, where we have to place domino stones, every pair is only used once, so you can't have duplicate pairs. So that is often also what I utilize to solve this, is to see, is there a combination out there that only can appear in one location, and use that as a starting point. So for example, in this puzzle, I see 4, 4 and 0, 0 only seem to be in one location. So if we place those right there, because there's no other places where they can go, then it means that this one has to be 3, 0 right away. Now we see that 1, 1, there's only one location for that. So we have eliminated that. These can both go sideways, because 2, 2 can go here, can go there as well. Similar with 3, 3, 3, 1. But there's certain other areas that we can quickly eliminate as well. So for example, if we go for the 4, 1, then that means that we can't use 4, 1 right here. So that means that the only 2 ways that these can be used is like this. The 2, 2 is fixed. Now have 4, 3 and 1, 4 double. So that couldn't quite work, right? So we have to eliminate this. 1, 0, of course, still available, but could also go this scenario. So since 1, 0 can't go this, we'll have to place this one flat. That means that this one is flat, this one is standing up. And now we have these 2. Do we have a 2, 1 already? I don't see a 2, 1, so there's and a 3, 1 is still open as well, and a 0, 1 is still open. 0, 3 we can't utilize, so this one can't be flat. So this one has to be standing up, because we have a 3, 0 right here. 3, 3 we already have, so this needs to be 3, 2. It only leaves one option for this. Um, so now we have to see 3-1. Have we already utilized the 3-1 anyway? Oh, before? Yes, we have. This is the 3-1, and it's the 4-2. And we have solved the puzzle. So it's a little bit of trial and error sometimes to go through the specific scenario, but in most cases, it will lead you on a pretty clear path to a solution. Since this is numbers involved, it is again pretty easy to see how this could be utilized in geocaching coordinates, where you point to specific combinations of the stones, for example, and utilize those for the puzzle. So these could be numbers that you utilize in scenarios. So 8, 6, um, 8, stuff like that. So you might have to place it at a specific location to work with the specific numbers of the puzzle. But again, uh, pretty straightforward to figure that out. So I hope these examples were useful. Of course, there's many more on that site, so I recommend to go check it out, familiarize yourself with them, because if you have done them once, it will just help you solve them the next time you see a puzzle. And as I mentioned, often they may not give you the exact rules, so it's important to even just recognize them, being able to understand that, oh, this is actually this type of puzzle. So trying them out, seeing all the different variations will just allow you to recognize more. So with that, thank you very much. I appreciate you listening. Please like the video if you haven't done so already. And if you are not a subscriber, I recommend you subscribe so you get notified when any new videos drop. Thank you very much and hope to hear from you for the next time.